In Activity 6, Erosion and Flooding, students investigate flooding. They simulate flood conditions in their stream tables by increasing the rate of water flow into the tables, and then observe erosion and deposition caused by flood conditions. You will need the following materials from the kit: Activity Sheet 6, plastic containers with holes, 1-liter containers, stream tables, and vinyl tubing. You will also need to provide items to elevate the stream table, metric rulers, newspaper, and tap water. To prepare for the activity, make a copy of Activity Sheet 6 for each student. Each team of 4 will need their stream table, 2 plastic containers, one with a small hole in the bottom and the other with a large hole in the bottom, 2 1-liter containers, items to elevate the stream table, a length of tubing, a metric ruler, and some tap water. To begin the activity, define runoff as water that does not evaporate or soak into the soil after a rain or when ice and snow melt. As the runoff flows to lower elevations, it combines with runoff from other areas and forms creeks, streams, and rivers. Ask students, what happens to creeks, streams, and rivers after a heavy downpour of rain? Students should reply that the amount or volume of water in them increases, and sometimes they overflow their banks and cause flooding. Then ask students, what do you think are some of the effects of flooding? Some students may know that flooding can kill plants and land animals, wash away nutrient-rich topsoil, and cause property damage. Tell students that during this activity they will simulate flood conditions in their stream tables and observe how erosion and deposition are affected by flooding. Have each team retrieve their stream table and distribute the materials. Give a copy of Activity Sheet 6 to each student. Instruct students to attach one end of the tubing to the stream table and let the other end hang down into the receptacle on the floor. Then have them moisten and reshape the sand if necessary so that it covers about 2/3 of the bottom of the stream table and is smooth and slopes gently toward the end of the table with the hole. Have students smooth the sand so that it ends 2 squares away from the end of the table. Tell them to count the number of uncovered squares on the grid and record the number on their activity sheets. Finally, tell them to draw a meander in the sand. Next, instruct each team to elevate the sand-filled end of their stream table 4 centimeters. Have the teams balance the plastic container with the small hole in the bottom between the pegboard and the edge of the stream table. Remind them to position the container so that the hole is directly over the start of the meander. Invite them to fill the plastic container with water, allow it to drain into the stream table, and observe the erosion. Tell them to record their observations on Activity Sheet 6. Once they have finished recording their observations, have students smooth the sand to its original condition and trace a shallow meander in the sand. Tell them to return the water from the receptacle on the floor to the pouring container. Next, instruct teams to repeat the experiment, this time using the plastic container with the large hole. After everyone has finished experimenting and recording their results, ask students, how did flooding affect erosion and deposition in your stream table? Students should have observed that the larger hole allowed more water to pass in a given period of time. This heavier volume of water caused more material to erode. Finally, ask students, what do you think are some things we can do to prevent flooding? Accept all reasonable responses. Then explain that dikes and levees are embankments along the edges of rivers and streams. Some levees are formed naturally by the erosion and deposition patterns of a river or stream. Others are made by people to keep rivers and streams from overflowing their banks and flooding the surrounding area. Dikes and levees are built to contain large volumes of water. To conclude the activity, have the students drain as much water as possible from their stream tables and discard the runoff that has collected in the receptacles. Tell them to remove the tubing but leave the grommet, grid, and pegboard in place. Rinse and air dry the containers and tubing and return them to the kit. Next, have students spread out some newspaper in a corner of the classroom, carefully pour the sand from their stream tables into separate piles on the newspaper, and let the sand dry out. The sand will be used again in Activity 10. Finally, instruct students to stack the tables and set them aside until they are needed again in Activity 8. For science background, reinforcement activities, curriculum connections, and information about the Delta Science Reader, please consult your DSM Teacher's Guide.